Good morning, Boquete. Good morning, Cherokee. Good morning, everyone who is within earshot of my voice. My name is Al Stefanelli, heretofore known as he of the fogged up glasses. You are listening, I'm going to take these off. Boquete Now, talk radio on Radio Cherokee 103.3 on the FM dial. Sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill and ACCB, who has the show every last Friday of every month is ACCB show. I haven't even had a booster shot, and I'm talking like I'm drunk. Welcome to the show. This is the first.
That would not be a booster shot.
That would not be a booster. It would be a booster of sorts.
Yes.
But not a booster shot.
Right.
Unless you're doing shots.
Unless you're doing shots.
Shots, yes.
Booster shots.
Speaking of booster shots, we have with us in the studio today, in addition to the always amazing Bolivar engineer, oh, by the way, hello, Veronica down in David. We have Dra Shannon Tuer.
Good morning.
And we are going to be talking about, so many things today.
That's what you say when you have no idea what we're going to be talking about.
That's what we call stretching. Right? That's what we call stretching. So
I do that all the time.
Yes,
I had no idea how to turn.
And it counts as exercise, I hear. Yeah. So,
well, that's healthy.
It is very healthy. This is a health-minded show when the doctor is on.
Yeah, I was going to say, And over there is Bolivar having a fritura.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, man. Always got it. I tell you what. You ought to pop down one day when Mona Portelens is on the show from ACCB, because she always brings, she doesn't just bring.
She's my neighbor.
Pies, man. She brings pies and chutney and all kinds of really good stuff.
And little butter miniature pies.
Miniature, yeah. So we're gonna see if maybe during ACCB week we can convince her to come down with some food and coffee.
Oh.
Hey. So
I'm there. Just let me know.
Yes. This is a two-part show. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock on this very same radio station is Talking with Your Doctor.
That's right. And I'm going to have us definitely on.
And imagine that.
And we'll be talking about lots of important stuff.
Lots of important stuff. We might actually even bring... No, being prepared is no fun. Why would we do that?
Why would we?
But there, as everyone knows, the CDC and the powers that be and the other health organizations have ascertained that a booster shot would be beneficial,
right?
After the COVID shots. And in case you're wondering, that includes Johnson & Johnson. And Johnson & Johnson has actually come out and said that their vaccine originally was going to be the 2 doses, but they got it down to the 1. So a second Johnson & Johnson shot would be...
So is that considered a booster or not a booster?
It's a good question. Maybe it's a boostet. I don't know, but they don't have it here anyway.
Right.
So for those of you who are in the States and, who went to the States and got their Johnson & Johnson, you don't necessarily have to go back to the States to get the second Johnson & Johnson, because I found out from a very wise physician that I know who just happens to be on my show today.
Really? Who's that? Where
Bolivar.
are they? Oh, Bolivar.
Dr. Bolivar. That you can mix and match.
Yeah, you can.
You can mix and match.
So. It's been approved to mix and match, at least in the United States, and where sometimes it's hard to find certain vaccines. Right. So if you'd originally gotten Moderna or something like that, you can get the Pfizer. If you originally got Johnson & Johnson, you can get another Johnson & Johnson if it's available, or you can get one of the mRNA ones. Yeah.
And they're suggesting, 6 months you were telling me, right?
6 months? I think in the States they're saying 8 months, but that might be the supply factor, or I don't know.
I know that when I got my AstraZeneca shot, I got it in June of this year. And I was scheduled with everybody else to wait 4 weeks.
Right.
And then, I don't know, about 2 weeks later, week and a half, 2 weeks later, they came out, they being they.
And said, not so fast.
They said, not so fast, because, and initially, when I got the AstraZeneca shot, it was because I'm under 60, and that was the only one
that was available
to me. And we were scheduled, my wife was actually scheduled to go to the States in August. So our plan was to have both of our shots, and then within the 14 days, be able to travel freely. Right. But a week and a half later, they had said, well, we're going to wait because 4 weeks apart, at least for the AstraZeneca, the rate of, what do you call it, the
effectiveness, yeah.
was about 40% or so. But
Yeah.
they said if you waited 10 to 12 weeks,
Right.
it was up in the 90s with the rest of them.
80s.
Something like
80s,
that, yeah.
uh-huh.
So, which worked out great for me.
Right.
But that 10 weeks was right smack in the middle of when my wife was going to be in the States.
You got yours a little bit early.
I got mine at, well, not to reference a movie, but it was 9.5 weeks when I got my second shot. And of course, Day being in the States, went to the local CVS and got her Johnson & Johnson.
Right.
So the question was, would she have to go back to the States? Which is why I wanted to bring that whole thing up, because
Right.
there's a lot of people I remember from reading Facebook and whatnot that had left, some specifically, some just by coincidence,
Right.
for the States and got, either a Moderna or Johnson & Johnson or one of them
Which
that's
we
not
don't have
available,
here.
which we don't have here. So I wanted to make sure that we got that out there, that if you did get your second shot 6 months ago,
You can go get a different.
you can go get a different shot now. And I think Pfizer,
According to the U.S. I mean, Panama hasn't said one way or the other
Yeah.
at this point, but they usually tend
Follow
to follow what
along.
the U.S. does. So I would assume that even if you had a different brand of, or a different brand
brand, I guess so. Right?
Brand.
It's a brand, yeah.
brand of
Manufacturers, whatever. Yeah.
right vaccine, then you can mix and match.
Yeah.
They say the best is when you have one of the DNA combined with an mRNA. You're more protected that way.
Yeah.
But they said even if it's just getting 3 doses of Pfizer, you're much better off than just having
The two.
two, because
Yeah.
the effectiveness does tend to wane, and we are having a problem with the variants.
Well, now this is what I wanted to ask you about. The advent of this knowledge where you benefit from a booster shot, which is basically a third dose. That came about because of the effectiveness waning. Because I know there's some vaccines, like you get a polio vaccine, you get an MMR vaccine. It's usually good for life, except when you're in the military and
They give it to you whenever they feel like it.
Yeah, well, you're basically a pincushion in a uniform. That's how that goes. But what was the science, or what was the general thinking behind them even exploring why you would need a booster shot?
Especially for the elderly or above 65 with health concerns. They were seeing a lot of breakthrough cases. Maybe the first 2 were already wearing off. Maybe they weren't as well protected. Their immune systems didn't react like they should. So originally it was more for that. Usually, like, for example, with the flu vaccine, you're going to wait a year between doses.
Right. Yeah.
But then again, you only have the one season where you're really worried about the flu, which is during the winter months in the States. So you just get it around just before the winter months, and you're supposedly protected at least a little bit from the flu virus. Here, we're seeing that this virus is active all year round.
Right.
We're seeing more and more breakthrough cases, so they decided to start doubling up on the vaccine. It's not unheard of. We have vaccines that are a series of 4 shots.
Right. And I remember getting boosters, excuse me, for various things over my life. So
Right.
it's not anything that's unusual.
I mean, there is one vaccine, and I can't remember which one it is, where you get 3 doses, like 1 dose every couple of weeks, and then another dose a few months down the road. So it's not unheard of that you might have to give boosters along the way.
Well, yeah, and especially if you're compromised in one way, if you have a compromised immune system or an autoimmune disease, or you just have
Your body just doesn't react well enough to the first 2 doses, and you definitely need another one. How can you tell? You can't really tell with an antibody test how well you're protected against the virus. It doesn't measure that.
right.
It measures whether you've been sick or not. So if you get an antibody test and you realize, oh, I've had COVID, I'm protected because I've got antibodies. No, that's not necessarily true.
Well, yeah, and then another popular, I wouldn't say popular, but another misconception is exactly what constitutes a vaccine. There's several people who are under the impression that Well, if it doesn't cure it, it's not a vaccine, and we know that that is not that is not exactly accurate.
Right, right. It vaccines don't protect 100%. Almost none of them do. Almost none of them are going to protect you 100%, meaning that you're not going to get sick. You might get sick, but you're probably not going to end up with severe disease or in the hospital. And that's the thing we're trying to do with these vaccines, is prevent people from ending up in the hospital.
Right. So basically, and as we've discussed, over the past several months, you and I on the show, is the viral load, the propensity for you to pass it on, to others, or to obviously how it's going to affect you personally. Theoretically, it should be a lot lower since you've had the vaccine. Right. And the thing is that a lot of first, the resistance to the vaccine was that it was still an emergency status. It hadn't been approved by the FDA, and a lot of people were just waiting for that. I'm going to wait till it's approved. They, consider it experimental. We can get into that later. But now that it's been approved, there's still that resistance. And there's still the resistance amongst groups that, I don't want to say defy logic, but defy logic. If you're in the healthcare field, particularly if you work in hospitals or if you work in the ER, or if you're dealing with patients who have had COVID or have died from COVID, trying to wrap my head around why, if you are in that line of work, or if you are in an emergency services line of work, first responders, why you wouldn't take advantage of this and protect yourself.
And look at it the other way around. If I were a patient, I wouldn't want somebody treating me, if I was in a delicate position, that isn't vaccinated, that could pass something on to me if I don't have my defenses up to 100%. I'm already in the hospital and I'm getting treated by someone that hasn't been vaccinated, could potentially pass it on to me. Right, yeah. Whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic, doesn't matter. You can still pass it on. Yeah. So you're putting my life at risk.
Yeah, I think, on the one hand, obviously, you want to respect someone's right to make their choices. Sure. There's been a lot of pushback on private corporations and government offices that have mandated this vaccine. There have been people who have chosen to abandon their careers over this. There are people who have chosen to go through a suspension process to where they still technically have a job, but they're not getting paid. They're not getting paid for it.
And they're at risk of losing their jobs because
and at risk of losing their jobs. I was watching a news program last night where the states up north in the United States, I don't have data on Canada or Europe, but in the United States, there have been several states that have mandated that everyone who works for that state, in whatever capacity, are mandated to get their vaccines. And some of the states, New York for one, which kind of surprises me, there's almost 4 out of 10, about 40% of people who work in emergency services, the police department, the fire department, have chosen to either walk off their job or not comply, run the risk of losing their jobs. And when you look at that number, and especially in a state that has a city the size of New York City, losing 40% of your emergency services doesn't just impact the person who is losing their job or is striking, in effect. It also affects the health and well-being of the rest of the population. It kind of exacerbates.
And their coworkers, because they don't have, they have to work more shifts. They don't have that backup that they had before. Yeah. But you've been in the military. You've heard the term troop readiness. Yeah. I mean, troop readiness means that you're protected to the highest extent, so that you're always ready to do what you have to do as a soldier, as a Marine, as an Air Force.
Anything in there, yeah.
That means having your vaccines up to date. That means being the healthiest you can. I mean, PT, you get tested in some parts of the military monthly, weekly, depending
on what your
specialty
MOS is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really, when you look at civilian emergency services such as police, SWAT, fire department, EMTs, they kind of have to be
ready
as well, because you never know what you're going to be walking into. You never know what the situation's going to be.
They can't be sick.
Right. You can be a police officer responding to a domestic violence call and end up in a home where nobody's vaccinated, everyone's sick, and now you're exposing yourself, and you still do run the risk, but it's a lower risk.
Mm-hmm. A firefighter that has to go into a fire, if your lungs are screwed up because you've gotten COVID or you have COVID, it's not going to help you fight that fire.
No, it is not going to help. And having served on a fire department a lifetime ago, it's hard enough breathing, even through a Scott pack, with 70 pounds of gear on your back.
Running through a building that's on fire.
A building that's on fire, and I'd have to say that the best physical shape that I had been in my entire life was from when I was in the Marine Corps through my service with the fire department up in New York. And that was because of that readiness. Mm-hmm. There was always physical not therapy, training. There was always, you always had to remain on top of your game.
Yeah, and you got tested.
Yeah.
And if you didn't make the cut, then you were sent to remedial.
Or you were sent, like as they say in sports, back to the farm team.
Yeah.
I remember specifically on the fire department, there was a physical test where you had to lift a certain amount of weight with one arm.
Mm-hmm.
Stress tests on a treadmill and endurance tests, and
right.
carrying a fire hose up 8 flights of stairs and training. I mean, there was a lot. It was very physically demanding.
And you can't scream discrimination.
No, you can't. I mean, you could, but it would be.
They would laugh at you.
They would laugh at you, yeah, because it is literally an equal opportunity job.
If you can't carry the tanks, if you can't carry the hose, if you can't do it while you're running up how many flights of stairs, then you're not going to be a help to your team.
Right.
So the same thing, if we have all of our doctors and nurses ending up on sick leave because they get sick and they cannot be around patients, treat patients, then you're leaving that hospital or that clinic in a lurch.
Yeah, and just the fact that these decisions that are being made not to be vaccinated. Now, if you're a private citizen, you're not engaged with the public, if you're retired, or whatever, or if you're self-employed to where you're working behind a computer all day, you're not interacting with people. Those aren't the individuals that are refusing the vaccine that are actually causing an issue overall. To a point, I guess they are, but it's the people who work in the grocery stores, that work, first responders, that are interacting with the general public. Mm-hmm. You just don't know the person that you're coming in contact with, how their physical health is.
Right.
And it just seems to me to be a disservice whether or not you are going to be infected yourself is only half of the.
If you're working in a cancer ward, if you're working with young children, if you're working in maternity, those are situations where you don't want to expose those particular patients to anything high risk.
Right.
And it is high risk for them, whether they've been vaccinated or not. And many of them can't get vaccinated. And even if they do, it won't be that effective because their immune systems
is already compromised. So you want to take into account the less fortunate, excuse me, here who already have problems. Mm-hmm. I have COPD. I know I have no business smoking, but be that as it may, Doc, me catching COVID would be more detrimental mm-hmm. to my health. Someone who's got an autoimmune disease, people who have multiple sclerosis or lupus, any of the diseases that compromise your immune system. It's not like a broken leg. You can't tell.
Right. No, you can't tell by looking at somebody that their immune system is compromised. You really can't.
And a lot of times they don't know either. They might not be aware.
They might not be aware of it.
I know it's really easy to get caught up in social media and in the conspiracies that are out there, and it's not necessarily conspiracy theories. There are some conspiracies, that have been brought to light. There are, organizations, pharmaceutical companies that have been investigated and found to have been cheating, or have quintupled the price of their medication when demand is up. And you want to be aware of those. You want to be able to find out, hey, what did this company do? Can I vote with my dollars? If a medication I think is out more than a year or two, then other companies are allowed to make generics. So there's
it's all in the contracts.
Yeah, it's all in the contracts. So sometimes you do have those choices, but there are some really out there conspiracy theories that are keeping people from getting this vaccine, and they are very easily either debunked or there is enough valid information out there to where these concerns can be alleviated.
Right.
We'll get into those. I do want to mention one thing. In about 8 minutes, it'll be 1/2 the hour. Halftime, and our halftime show today is going to be Judy Tovar. She's waiting out in the wings there, and she's going to come in for a few minutes and talk to us about. For those of us who are...
She was my former neighbor in Panama.
Was she?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So for those of us who are daily just utterly destroying the Spanish language with our attempts to speak Spanish. Yes.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
She's going to talk to us a little bit about some of the stuff that she provides. So she's out there in literally the green room. Because the grass is green, and the canopy is green, and her mask is green. Hey. And so we're going to be talking to her, about that. And she was on the show a few months ago with, was it the Nutra-Hogar?
Nutra-Hogar?
Yeah. So she's not a newcomer to this program.
By the way, Mom says hi.
Hi, Mom.
She says congratulations to your son.
Oh, thank you. Yes, my son got married this past Sunday in Cancun. And for the first time in, I want to say 35 years, maybe 35, 37 years, there's another Mrs. Stefanelli out in the world. So, yeah.
So Dave's no longer alone.
She's no longer alone. So, It's interesting when you pass on a family name. I have daughters. They're married or they've been married, and my son is the one, I guess, who carries on that tradition. However archaic it might sound to some people, but so they're the next. They get the mantle.
So right? You need him to carry on the family name.
You carry on, and then I guess I'll retire.
Because there can't be enough Stefanellis.
No, ever. But yeah, it was beautiful. Mexico is a beautiful country. Cancun is absolutely stunning.
I saw the pictures of that hotel, the resort.
Yeah,
wow.
It was the Iberostar selection in Cancun. It was a very, very, very nice place, and the ceremony went off with a hitch. Oh, that's such an old grown joke. You can keep the dad joke out of the whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very nice, and it was interesting travel trip back and travel there. Day and I love being in new places and seeing new places. It's just the getting there and getting back.
Yeah, you didn't.
That kind of bites.
Yeah. I guess going was okay, and then coming back was a little bit rough.
Going was long because it was all one day. We got up early on Saturday morning about 4 a.m. and over to David to Tocumen, and then to Tocumen and Cancun, and then there's the ride and all that. We got in at about 5 o'clock, and there was a rehearsal dinner at 6. That was semi-formal, so it's like get in, unpack, iron, blah blah blah. Coming back, obviously, because Copa has decided, I guess their afternoon flights are not going to be happening for a while.
Yeah, very strange.
Was the usual what a lot of us from North America have to do is you get into Panama City in the afternoon, spend the night, and then
Leave at dark
and
30.
then leave at dark.
I mean,
30.
it's early. That flight is
Well,
early.
yeah. Well, you got we stay usually at the Rion, which a lot of people do, and you got to get their 5:30 shuttle, which means getting up at 4.
Right.
4:30. So, but yeah, though I got props to Copa though. Almost all the flights that we took were good. There was that one, I have to say, landing in Cancun, kind of sideways, coming in hot. It's a lot of bouncing, a lot of skidding, a lot of fishtailing.
So how many times did your heart actually stop?
And I think 8. I think 8. That was I'm not a pilot I've flown planes, small ones. I have no idea how
So
any
you
of
were
the,
white knuckling it in.
So I was looking out the window and I'm like, we're about to hit the ground and we're not really straight. We're on an angle. I mean, I could see the runway.
I think they do that. I think they do that with the wind.
Well, they might, but he came down sideways.
They
came down sideways to the nose of the plane pointing to the left, bounced up. The nose of the plane went to the right, bounced down, bounced up again, came down straight, but then went into a skid and started skidding sideways. And I'm looking, I'm like, I can see the end of the runway. And according to that little screen, we're still doing like 200 kilometers an hour. And I'm trying to do math in my head, which really wasn't a good idea because all I pictured was a fiery ball of twisted metal. But he pulled it together. And
Xanax next time, Xanax.
Yes, I know. So,
the pilots usually know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do. They do. I've got millions of miles in the air in my lifetime, and I've never been in a plane crash. Obviously, if I was, I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
That plane crash that crashed in Texas in all 21, was that in the air or was that just skidded off the runway?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, you didn't hear about it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I do know that there was one flight in Hawaii where wind shear ripped the entire top of the plane off.
Wow.
You can see people sitting there, and the
No,
pilot landed it. No casualties. The pilot landed. Although anything in the overhead compartment obviously was gone.
Apparently, when they turned the nose because of the wind, like you guys were turned, according to this pilot, also called Mom, it's called crabbing.
Ah, yeah, I see that in cars sometimes with bent frames.
Yeah.
You've seen that, right?
I've seen
You're going
that,
down the road
especially
sideways, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're right behind them, and they're going down the road correctly, but the whole car is
It's
twisted.
shifted,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very interesting.
Well, thanks, Mom. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
I feel a little better now knowing that we were
It was
not.
It was an on-purpose.
It was an on-purpose thing,
Yeah.
and we were not.
Hopefully,
in
we don't know
danger
that
of,
was
no,
your
we don't.
situation.
It's
No.
okay.
Either that or your pilot was really drunk, getting ready to go to the resort.
We don't want to know that, though. Or do we?
You
I don't know. Maybe he
want to
had
know
COVID.
it before you got on the plane.
It would be very good. People say, whenever you're about to go on a journey, that involves air travel, they're like, have a safe flight. And I'm like, no, I don't want to have a safe flight. I want the pilot to have a safe flight. This is really what I want out of this trip.
And you just hope your pilot doesn't have a death wish.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole other show.
Yep.
But anyway,
Is it a halftime?
it's just about, yeah. So let's bring Judy in. I see we have a camera up over there, so I think we can get her on.
See, I never noticed that.
Yeah, so come on in, Judy. Have a
Judy.
seat.
Right here?
Yeah, that'll work. Sure. Yeah.
Hola.
So we're welcoming to the show, Judy. Is it Tovar or Tovar?
Tovar in Spanish, Tovar in English.
Okay, so Tovar because when in Panama, right? Be like.
You were
Panama.
going to say Rome, weren't you?
I was going to say Rome.
Yeah.
And we're a little far away from Rome. So welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I've been here before.
Yes, you have.
Talking about Nutrogar.
Yes.
And some of you know me because we do some, Linda Hart and I do some amazing, or used to do some amazing trips on the party bus, which we're going to start doing hopefully very soon again.
Yeah. I think the last time you were on the show, I got texted some pictures from they were on the bus, and Linda I think was on the bus, and they were all like waving and everything. So yeah, we're gonna have Nutrogar hopefully back on the show in a couple of weeks. Maybe I'll talk to you.
We haven't been
later.
able to open the doors in Nutrogar for people to come and visit the children yet, because Minsa doesn't give us permission, which I can understand.
Yeah.
It's for the children's security.
Sure.
But hopefully soon we'll be able to take people back to see the children.
And that would be absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Vaccinate people, vaccinate.
Vaccinate.
Yes.
Yes. Please,
Yes.
please vaccinate.
Yes.
Sorry about
So
that. That was a me.
now let's just say, for example, there's someone in this room who struggles with speaking Spanish and would really like some help along the lines of not to be completely fluent and to be able to give speeches in front of the Panamanian government, but ordering food would be nice, asking for directions, general conversation. I wonder if there's anyone here who could help with that.
I can.
So, what is it? And you do it a little bit differently from the text that you had
Yes.
you had given me.
What
So
I want
tell
to
us what you
do is I'm a native Panamanian, and I was very blessed to grow up with 2 languages
Oh,
because I learned English since I was 5 years old.
oh wow.
So, but I see the struggles that a lot of people have in Boquete, especially Boquete because this is where I live now. And the conversational Spanish that I'm trying to offer is not sitting down and just learning grammar. It's sitting down and learning to be comfortable with an everyday conversation.
Right.
Okay, so let's say that you need to go and do errands,
Right.
or you need to go to the municipio, or you need to go do whatever. If you need a translator, I can help with as translator. But if you just want to sit and talk just in Espanol, just in Spanish,
Yeah.
so that you could get your tongue.
Right. Just a general and I
General
find that
conversation.
when I take a taxi, and this is a perfect example. Okay, I don't really take taxis too much anymore, but I was waiting for a cab. A taxi, and I was with a good friend of mine, who now doesn't live here anymore. Her name is Rusty Castillo. I had no idea that she was fluent in Spanish. So anyway, it's me and my wife and Rusty. We get into the cab, and my wife and I are in the back seat, and Rusty's in the front, and she just starts having this conversation with the taxi driver. And I thought to myself, I got about 30 words in my vocabulary, and I struggle with, as a lot of us do, with the masculine and feminine, struggle with the parts of speech that, like I just literally learned that hasta is, from and to. I didn't know that. And when I'm watching her have this conversation, I got kind of envious. I used to speak Italian when I was very, very young, and that stopped when I was about 5 or 6 because my parents were like, well, we're in America now, and you're going to school, so we're going to just switch to English, which I think was a disservice because you got to grow up with 2 languages. So how would it work? How would it work with you? Do you do individual? Do you do groups? Do you do couples? I mean, how does that all work?
I can do groups, I can do individuals. I was thinking from 1 to 3 persons, just because each person has their own individual know-how of how much Spanish they know, and it's difficult to have a group because each one has different levels.
Right. Well,
So
yeah.
I was thinking of more doing it on a personal basis, a couple, or up to 3 people, like 3 friends.
Right, because they're probably pretty close on their,
Yes.
especially at couples.
The way that I look at it is this way. You live in my country. My country is Panama. Our language is Spanish.
Right.
Okay? So if you come to my country, you should learn our language.
Yeah.
Just like when I went to the United States,
Right.
I had to learn English because that's the language
Right,
of the
and
United
I
States.
totally agree with that.
And so I want to help people to learn Spanish, but in a fun way.
Right.
It could be sitting down and having a drink.
Sure.
It could be sitting down and having a lunch. It could be going to the grocery store. It could be going to Novi's in David.
Right.
It could be anything, anywhere that you want to practice Spanish with me, I'm willing to go with you.
Yeah, that's helpful. And specifically, just in general day to day. Sometimes, my problem is that because for the first several years, not many, of my life, I spoke Italian, and I forgot most of it. But I remember, obviously, things stick with you. Pronunciation. So my issue is when I come out with a Spanish word or a phrase in Spanish, it sounds really deceptively like I'm fluent in Spanish because by and large my pronunciation is perfect. My cadence is good, my speed is good, and then I get a flood of Spanish back that is so fast that I can't process it, and then it kind of makes me a little self-conscious about trying it again. So to have somebody like a one-on-one or even a two-on-one,
And that's the idea. The idea is that I
Comfort.
know that we speak very fast
yeah,
because we do.
And drop parts of words.
And drag out and eliminate parts of words.
Yes. Yes.
So the idea is for you to talk to a native Panamanian, which is me, and understand our way of talking
right.
and be able to converse. I think it's so beautiful for foreigners to be able to go down the street and to be able to talk to native
Yeah.
people, even the Indians.
Yeah. Well,
Because-
it's as a foreigner, it's a good feeling, when I'm out and about, and I get it right, even if it's a short little conversation, and I know that I've gotten it right or I've gotten it close enough, and there's a short little conversation. It makes me feel good about myself because I didn't try to put out that belief that, well, even though I'm in Panama, you should know English as a Panamanian. I think that's kind of arrogant, right?
Yes.
So it makes me feel good, when I get to converse with somebody, and I really wish that I was able to do that more. That I had a better command of the language.
And you see it all the time. People saying, I need a handyman, but must speak English.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the kind of situation you'd be great for
Yes.
because you could come in and you say, this is how you say what you want to get done. This is how you converse with whomever so that you have that experience. So it doesn't matter if the handyman speaks English or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm available whenever, and it doesn't have to be like once a week. It could be whenever you want.
Yeah.
You just let me know so that I can organize my time.
Well,
And I can go to Boquete and meet you wherever you want. Or if you want to go to David, we can go to David. Like I said, I will adjust. I will personalize.
personalized.
Yeah,
That's the
All right,
word.
so two
Personalized.
very
Yeah.
important questions. How do we get in contact with you? And I know you're going to give your phone number, and I'll
Yes.
put that in my post-production video.
Yes.
And what do you charge? How much are you? What are your rates?
Okay, my rate right now from 1 to 3 persons is $20 an hour, minimum 2 hours.
Okay, is that each?
No, that's
okay.
total.
Oh wow.
So like if it's 3
nice.
persons, you're talking of $40 divided by 3. If it's 2 persons, it would be $20 a piece because it's
2 hours.
Right,
2 hours.
2 hour minimum.
If it's 1 person, I could adjust that a little bit to
Yeah.
go down to like maybe $15 an hour.
Yeah.
But
So for 2 people, it's basically $40.
$40 total.
$40.
You're
Yes.
not paying. You're not paying for the complexity. You're paying for the time, the hour.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
That's-
And
that's
I put it up
Yeah.
to 3 people because sometimes there's 3 friends
Right.
that
Sure,
like to
yeah.
talk between themselves, and they can talk in front of me in Spanish, and I can correct them
Yeah.
and help them with whatever conversation they
Yeah.
want to talk about.
Well, you got to be a very patient person.
Oh, I am.
It's very difficult for those of us who are older to make new pathways, to learn new things.
Yes.
Learning a new language, people have told me, well, if you're over 50, you could forget about it. But I know people personally that have come here 34 years ago without knowing any Spanish now that are conversational. So I don't believe that at all. I think you just
Exactly.
really have to want to do it and to have a good patient teacher
Yes.
as well.
I am very patient. I am a customer service trainer, so I love people to be very satisfied with whatever services I provide. And my idea is for people to be able to not necessarily know the grammar,
Yeah.
sit down and learn the grammar, but to learn how to converse.
Because right now.
But you do need some vocabulary.
Yes.
Well,
to be
yeah,
able
you
to
do need
vocabulary.
and grammar. You
Yes.
know, right now I speak two languages: English and bad English. So, you know, if I can throw bad Spanish in there, it's better than no Spanish.
Exactly.
You know, and I know that from the other Panameños and Boqueteñas that I've spoken to, just a foreigner making an effort is appreciated. You know, so I may mangle the language, but I'm trying to make an effort to show my respect for my new home country here. It's to learn the language and learn the customs. I didn't come here for it to be the same as where I came from, right?
Exactly.
So, all right. So, how do we get a hold of you?
My phone number, my WhatsApp is 6617-4122. I'll repeat that, 6617-4122. You can also email me, and you can email me at easy travel, like EASYTRAVEL at cwpanama.net.
Okay, and
Okay.
I'm going to put that in, as you all know, out there in Radio Land, usually Sunday or Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I post a video on my Boquete Now YouTube channel, and in the comments, if you will, I already got your phone number.
Yes.
So if you would text me your email email
Sure.
address, because
Yes.
I'll forget it in about 8 seconds.
Okay.
I'll put that in there, and you know, I hope that you get your classes get full.
I hope so too. And like I said, whatever day, whatever time is good for you, it's good for me.
All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for popping
you.
by,
Thank you very much.
and we'll catch up with you later.
Nice to see you, Judy. Take care.
All
Igual.
right, ciao.
Saludos, Abo.
Ay, se acaba de ir pa' Texas.
Ah.
I understood Texas.
I know.
Oh, really?
Ciao.
Yeah, that's actually a really good, a really good service for those of us who I really am trying to acclimate. I've been here almost 4 years, and I think, just when I think I've learned enough,
Not so fast, Al
I am
Stefanelli.
reminded. Yes, I am reminded. Whoa, not so fast there, Chuck. Yeah, so I would like to mangle Spanish less than I am currently.
A little better, a little less.
Yeah, so anyway, thanks to Judy for stopping by.
Yeah, that should be good. I
Yeah.
mean, she was doing all of her tours, and of course that kind of got messed
yeah.
up with COVID. Obviously, you're not going to be doing big bus tours
Right.
until things settle down a bit. So, she's offering a good service.
Yeah. I might. I'm gonna talk to my significant other. Maybe we'll try that. I don't know.
Yeah, have her go in a taxi with you. Then you can tell people how to get to your house.
I know. I always struggle with that. I know left, I know right, I know straight, but I forget things like, on the house next to, or, I know, then I'll remember after I get out of it was Proxima. Oh, man, why didn't I? Then I'm like, what word did I say? Did I insult somebody? So it's really
Well, you
handy.
haven't been
though.
punched in the nose yet. So
Not
that's-
yet, no.
that's
good.
good.
I
That's-
think that's a plus.
It is.
It's positive.
It is. Yeah.
But anyway, let's tomorrow on your show. I mean, obviously, it's talking with your doctor. We're gonna probably
Right.
get into
We'll get into the nitty
the
gritty.
nitty gritty, the more medical stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will say this though, I have seen, just based on social media here on the usual Boquete Facebook groups,
Right.
that people are slowly, the people who have been resistant, many of them have come around, and I guess have done enough or been exposed to enough of the scientific research out there. And I think a lot of it had to do with the vaccines being several of them.
Not in the beginning.
Being
Not in the
given-
beginning.
no.
But you always are always going to have that resistance. But you still see, I mean, the resistance because they don't want to be told that if you want to open a restaurant to 100% capacity, that everybody that goes there has to have a vaccine,
Right.
has to be fully vaccinated. They don't want to be told what to do.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to have a driver's license to drive a car. I don't want to have, I mean, there's things that we have to have, whether it be here in Panama or in Canada or in the States or in Europe. There are things the government tells you to do that it's an if-then. If you want to drive a car, then you have to have a driver's license. Right?
If you want to go on an airplane, you can't have a bottle of liquid above 6 ounces.
3.4.
3.4.
3.4. Yes, I can say with great certainty.
You can't bring matches on. You can't bring a lighter on. You can't
Right.
bring a knife on board. Everybody's gotten used to that, and
Yes.
you know, it's not. Am I right?
Yes. And going through security in Panama and Mexico, I lost another knife because I own so many little pocket knives. You know, they're
That
utilities.
you forget where they are.
Yeah, they got little scissors, corkscrews,
Yeah,
you know, whatever,
yeah.
pliers or
Yeah.
whatever, Leatherman. So
Yeah,
I got like
little-
a dozen of them, and
Little cheapo ones. Yeah.
I throw them in little pockets, and in my bags and whatever, and I forget that they're there. And we're going through the airport, and the woman who was doing the security, actually in English, said to me, "Not so fast." And I was like, every time I go through the airport, security pulls me over for one thing or another.
Well, you know that's because they have your picture now.
Yeah, I know. So they
Repeat
look.
offender.
They look at. I know, right? An international criminal. So I'm like, now I checked that bag, obviously not thoroughly enough, and
Yeah.
in one of the side pockets, I have a flashlight. I'm like, well, maybe there were the batteries, maybe there was something. So they took my bag, and they came back with it. She came by, she stood in front of me, and she looked very proudly, put the bag right there in front of me, and meticulously reached into the pocket, and slowly and theatrically pulled this little Leatherman out. And I was like, "Oh, lo siento para ti." Yeah, you know, you can have
he's
it.
like,
You can
he's
have
like,
it.
gift for you.
Good for you.
I brought it for you.
And then the next stop, they pulled me
But
out of
those
line.
things are tiny. I mean,
They are.
Yeah.
I got pulled out of line and into this little kind of three-walled area where there was a couple of people in front of me, and they were getting their backpacks just
Ripped apart.
ripped
Yeah.
apart. And all I have at this, because we checked everything, all I have is my little purse, my man purse, which is like 9 inches square and maybe 2 inches thick. And I really didn't have anything, and they had a while. I had my passport or whatever. So the first question she asked me is, "Do you have more than $10,000 in cash?" I'm like, "I have a little purse."
You're like, I have never even seen $10,000
yeah,
cash in my
what
life.
is, you know, so they opened it up, they went through it, and they opened my wallet up, and I had like $200 in there.
So they're
you
taking
know.
out the bills.
They're taking out the bills, and I'm like, well, you know, obviously, if all you see is 20s, there's not 10 grand in there.
They're looking for the hidden hundreds. In
The
there.
hidden, the hidden, because I'm just known for hiding $100 bills, whatever. But anyway, I do appreciate what they do, and if you're
Yeah.
out there in radio land and you're one of the people who has to do that, appreciate it, you know.
Well, David went through security once, and you know those big bear claw things that you use to tear apart meat to make, you know, I don't know.
How do you know about that?
Bear claws?
I don't know if I want to have surgery now. No, seriously, I know what you're talking about.
Well, these are plastic, but they got the, you know, it kind of looks like Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know. So he's got that in his carry-on. He forgot he put it in his carry-on. He didn't really think about it, right? And he also was bringing a power tool carry-on because he was afraid it was going to get taken. Well, the power tool also had some kind of a drill bit or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So they're going through his stuff, and they take out the bear claws, and they kind of throw them to one side, and they go through the other stuff, and they find the drill bit, and they're like,
Aha!
and that's what we lost.
Bear claws and drill bits.
No, bear claws stayed.
They let you keep the bear claws, but
Really,
they took
really
the...
sharp instruments, by the way,
Yeah.
because they shred pork and beef and whatever else you want to shred. I mean, you could shred somebody to death with those things.
Yeah, I'm thinking
but
passengers, crew.
yeah, crew.
Yeah, something
but
like that.
you know, keep your bear claws. We're taking the drill bit because
Yeah.
you know you don't
can-
need electricity and the drill to be able to work to be able to use a drill bit,
Yeah,
right?
you can slowly hand turn the drill through the fuselage bulkhead. Yeah. Oh well.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
think, you know, there was one of the passengers that was on our one of our flights. So we're sitting there, you know, and the flight crew, they do their thing, right? You know, the here's the buckle and the flotation device and blah blah blah, and you know. So the very last thing they said was, due to international regulations, you're required to wear your mask, and then they added over your mouth and nose, right? Well, the passenger in front of me had their mask down below their nose. And I really honestly thought that they were going to throw her off the plane. Day was sleeping, and I'm watching this thing unfold.
Was she having a hissy fit?
No, she wasn't having a hissy fit because she'd have woke Day up, but she was resistant. You know, like she had it down and she'd put it up just. I mean, you couldn't get any more on the tip of your nose. And then as soon as the flight attendant turned around, she just
Back down again.
Back down again. But it was like a game because the flight attendant would say, "Excuse me, you need to cover both your mouth and your nose," and she'd just put it up a little bit like that. And as soon as the flight attendant turned around, she put it down. But as soon as she put it down, the flight attendant turned around, you know, like da-da, and she'd go like that. And for like 20 seconds, there was this little volley, up, down, turn around, up, down, turn around. It was almost like square dancing. And I was just laughing to myself because, you know, why? You know, why? But
Yeah,
she
just
eventually,
put it over your stupid
she
nose.
eventually put it up all the way and did the thing, you know, that you do with the hold the top and the bottom, and left it on throughout the flight. And I don't know if she was just trying to be a wise ass or not, but for a minute there, I thought they're just going to empty this plane out, and we're just going to have to, you know, miss everything. But it worked.
It's the classic, though. I mean, even coming into the clinic, as soon as they walk into the consultation room, the office there, they'll sit down right in front of a big sign that says "Must wear mask," and go, "Can I take this off?" No,
you can't.
you're in a small area,
Yeah.
enclosed. You don't want to.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to
Yeah.
what we were talking about, you know, earlier. Is that, and again, tomorrow we're going to get into, you know, a little more of the science and the medical community's point of view. But, you know, from the point of view of someone who really does try to make sure that I'm following all the protocols and being compliant, when I see someone who is stubbornly not, it kind of makes me feel like, you know, you're ruining it for the rest of us. And I totally understand. You're on one of the back roads and
Yeah.
you're walking. There's nobody around. You're not hurting anybody if you have your mask down
Right.
on your neck. You're out in the sunshine. There's nobody around you. You're walking, you know. But in the grocery store,
In the grocery store, below the nose is not.
yeah. So
No.
you know
Just follow the rules while you're there. It's
just
10 minutes.
Follow the rules while you're there. You know, nobody likes wearing these.
No.
You know, we already know that. Some of us have a little more difficulty breathing than others. You know, I have COPD.
I'm asthmatic.
Sometimes
I know.
you're asthmatic, but it's a short period of time. I think the worst time that I have had wearing the mask was from about 7 o'clock Saturday morning until 5 o'clock Saturday evening because of all the travel. I had it on all day.
Yep.
But, you know, I'm still here. It was uncomfortable. You know, granted, I moved a little bit slower, but it wasn't causing
No,
that much of
I mean, I
wasn't
was-
causing that much of an issue.
Working 10-hour shifts with the mask.
With your
Two
mask on.
masks
Two
on.
masks on, yeah.
Because I like to wear two. Not because one doesn't work, but because two is a little bit safer.
Yeah.
Plus the face shield, plus all my gear.
Yeah.
10 hours. It's uncomfortable. It's hot.
Yeah.
You get mask knee.
Yeah.
It's no fun. But you do it.
Well, and you know what? There's going to come a time when these aren't going to be required anymore. There's going to come a time where, you know, Minsk is going to come out with new rules and regulations. Say, okay, well, we've reached herd immunity. We're at 70-something% of fully vaccinated people. We can start relaxing. They might keep it for a while.
In stores.
Yeah, like in Mexico, for example, if you are on the grounds of the hotel, not on the grounds, if you're inside the hotel in one of the restaurants or one of the banquet halls, one of the restaurants, actually, you have to have a mask on. If you're in public transportation,
Right.
you have to have a mask on.
Obviously. yeah.
Otherwise, there's no mask mandate if you're outside the hotel
Right.
or if you are in a private banquet room. Like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't wear masks at the reception. It's a huge room. Still, there was a lot of closeness of people I've never met before. So that's just personal. You have to make that choice yourself.
Yeah. Of
But-
course, you're fully vaccinated.
Yes, and I'm fully vaccinated. And I would tell you one thing, that this hotel, the Iberostar, part of their all-inclusive, it was an all-inclusive, obviously, was free COVID tests
Oh, okay, nice.
for the guests who are who are leaving, going back. Now, obviously,
Oh, that's good.
we didn't need one because coming into Panama
If you're vaccinated.
it wasn't a problem. We had to fill out a little form and show
Affidavit,
an
yeah.
affidavit, yeah, but it didn't delay.
Yeah,
it
no,
didn't
we
delay
don't
at
have
all.
we don't have that anymore. Where vaccinated people have to bring a negative test.
But eventually, Minsa is going to come out with something similar. They'll slowly relax it. Okay, you don't have to have them when you're outside.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe in restaurants. Right now, I know that if I had Chris on the show last week, and he was explaining that if you want to be 100% at 100% capacity, everyone who comes in your restaurant has to be vaccinated.
Right.
Don't get mad at the restaurant owner.
Right.
This is not their.
The restaurant wants to be able to serve at full capacity.
Right.
And if they want to serve at full capacity, according to Minsa, all the patrons have to be vaccinated. And I'd assume all their staff have to be vaccinated too.
Assuming so, yes.
That would only make sense. So yeah, don't get mad at the waiters. Don't get mad at the staff. This is a decree put out by the Ministry of Health.
Right. And they're going to be, I know there's a lot of rumors out there. I've heard that, starting November, they're going to eliminate all the masks and everything. I promise you, as I have done for the last almost 2 years, when I get verified information, I pass it along.
Yep.
I haven't gotten anything concrete or verified, but when I do, it more than likely is going to be along the lines of what the rest of the world is doing. Start slow, outdoors. You won't need a mask. If you're in a public park, you probably won't need a mask. You could probably start having, get-togethers, at home. But if I had to guess, and it's an educated guess, that restaurants, probably grocery stores for a while, clinics, are
Probably public offices.
Yeah, probably going to still require,
Transportation,
public
public transportation.
Yes. So it's. You can get vaccinated. You can get the booster shots. When the time comes, but that doesn't mean that you are completely safe to other people. So you still really need to.
Yeah.
I wear the mask when I have to. I understand why we have to wear it. It's not just, I don't wear it just to protect myself. I wear it to protect the people around me because I don't know. I don't want to be the one to pass COVID on to someone who's got a
I don't want to kill somebody.
Right, yeah.
I don't
most
want to.
people.
I don't want to send them to the hospital. Yeah.
There are those out there who,
No.
Yeah,
we don't want
that's
that. We don't
whole-
want that. We're trying to clear this stuff up. We don't.
Yeah, you don't want that. And I think
We don't want to get thrown back.
the concept of herd immunity it's a valid, scientifically proved concept that when you get to a certain saturation, vaccinated or inoculated, same thing. Maybe we could talk about that tomorrow.
And contrary to popular belief, not everyone is an active anti-vaxxer in Panama. I mean, there's a very, very small group of not wanting to get this particular vaccine.
And
Very
I think
small.
We're in the 60s already. We're 60%.
60s if you include the entire population, from age 0 on up.
Yeah.
And I think like 70s for 12 and up.
Yeah. So
As far
we're
as-
pretty close to, if we are
We're getting
not
there.
already at
We're getting there.
herd immunity, and some say it's 70%, some say it's 80%, but
And we're already getting our booster shots. The doctors,
yeah.
the above 55s,
Yeah.
are getting their booster shots.
So if you want to get through this quicker, get your vaccination.
If you want to be able to be free to go to any restaurant you want that decides they're going to open up to 100% capacity, then do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been proven time and time again that this vaccine is safe for the majority.
Majority, yeah.
There's some people that have problems with the vaccine.
But there's some people that always have had problems with vaccines. This is nothing new.
This is not new.
This is,
There's some people that just cannot get the vaccine, and I don't know how that's going to work with them.
Yeah.
I don't. But I do know that for the majority, it's a safe vaccine.
And it's a vast majority. It isn't, it's in the upper 90th percentile of people that, this would be...
And only about 1% of deaths right now are among vaccinated people. 1% of all the COVID deaths.
Yeah. So our awesome engineer here said we got 2 minutos.
Or did he say cut?
Or did he say? Oh, cut. Oh, okay.
cut.
Well, you put 2 fingers up, dude. Oh, okay. All right. Well, no, I don't want to. You don't want to.
Sorry, Veronica.
All right. Well, we'll continue this tomorrow. We're talking with your doctor right here on.
Hasta mañana, Veronica.
At 10 o'clock. You've been listening to Boquete Now Talk Radio, Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM, sponsored by Big Daddy's Girl and ACCB. Bye bye.